Where did you live in Tewksbury?
On Shawshene Street.
Was there anything significant about the location?
Or just opposite the end of Bridge Street. That's all. The bridge runs across the river down below, and we're just opposite the end of that.
I grew up in that house in Tewksbury. There's a lot of instances that I remember about different things. One thing that kind of hangs in my mind. So I used to work second shift, so I'd get home late at night, and everybody else worked, you know. So on many occasions I'd come home at night and I'd see the attic light on, and I'm like, oh, well, maybe I left the light on. I'd go shut it off, and there was a couple instances where I came home, it was dark. I'd, notice the light on. I'd shut the light off, lock the door from the outside, and I would go out for the night with my friends or whatever. I'd come home, still nobody home, and the light would be on again. So I said, geez, I thought I shut that light off. And I'd go upstairs to the attic, unlock the door, open it, shut the light off, close it, lock it up again. This went on a couple different times, and I never really thought anything of it. I just figured I was absent-minded, and oh, maybe I, just second-guessed myself, and maybe I didn't really shut the light off. So one day, after this happened a couple times, I told my friend John, I'm like, John, come here, follow me. So he followed me up to the attic door, and I unlocked the door, I opened it. Sure enough, the light was on. I said, John, watch. I shut the light off, closed the door, locked it. We had gone out for the evening, and we came back probably 4, maybe 6 hours later, and we look up at the attic window. Sure enough, the light's on. And he goes, you sure nobody's been home? I said, I'm positive nobody's been home. Mom's at work, Dad's at work, that's it.
I thought the house was haunted a little, because strange things would happen. And we found out that by doing a little research that there was a gentleman by the name of, or his first name was George, I don't remember his last name now, and he was living with us in the attic of our house, supposedly in the window frame. Now that sounds very odd, but it came, we didn't believe in ghosts or anything like that until things started happening around the house. And so we checked with a lady that we knew that was known as the White Witch that lived in Billerica, and she came over and went through the house with us, and it was very interesting. I was still a bit skeptical, but it was very interesting what she came up with, and said that's what his name was. His name was George, and he lived up in the attic. The things would happen during the day or night. I worked up the street about a mile away from the house at night. I'd come home late at night, and I always told my friends, if the lights are on, somebody's up, so come on in. We had a lot of friends back then, young friends. And one night, for instance, I was sitting at the kitchen table. I just fixed myself something to eat because it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I heard the front door open and close, and the inside door, we had a big front porch, the inside door just inside of the first one was another door. I heard that open and close, so I said, who's there? And nobody answered. So I got up and I walked to the door, and I looked all around. I looked outside. There was no one around anywhere, and that was one of the first instances that something like this happened.
I remember my mother saying something one day about how she had been downstairs, and in what we used to refer to as the coal room, there was a wall about maybe 5 feet high, and it was an old stone foundation. Now, I don't know about how they did things in the old days, but even if you're going to build a shelf, why would you go through the hassle of building it all out of stone and mortar that high? We just always thought it was kind of weird. Well, one day I remember my mother saying she was down there and there was a loose rock. Well, one day she decided she was going to pull that rock out. She pulled the rock out, and as soon as she pulled that rock out, sand, real fine sand, like beach sand, stuff you wouldn't find normally around a house, just started pouring in from this hole. Just pouring out of the hole. And she got scared, jammed the rock back in, and never touched it since. And we always thought that was odd. After doing a little research on the house, we found out that the house next door to us was actually the old barn to our house, and we were told there were tunnels running from one to the other. Well, we never really came across any tunnels, but I'm thinking maybe that's what that wall was maybe a sealed up entrance to one of those tunnels that would maybe explain the sand that was used to fill it.
Down in the basement of the house, we had, it was an old stone foundation, and there was a hole in the wall that went to nowhere. And on the left, in one room down in the cellar, there was 2 rooms. In one room, there was a stone wall with like a mantelpiece on top of it. A flat stone, like a table, but it was tall. It was up to around my neck, I guess. So I could see everything that was on top of this. And we were told later on by people that had lived around there that this was an open space that went into the ground for something. Nobody seemed to know what. But we'd get noises from down in the basement also, and I'd get down there and I'd check. It never bothered me any, but just checking to see whether we had mice or something, which we didn't have. But we found out by this white witch lady. She came a couple of times. Don't remember her name right now, and she came over 3 or 4 times and told us this story about, well, she went through, we used a Ouija board and all that stuff, with something I never believed in to start with. But after that, there was really no better explanation than we had ghosts. So we spoke, I really didn't believe in ghosts, but we talked to him, we told him we were friendly, and he said he liked us, and I don't remember how all that came about. I think it was on a Ouija board that this white witch lady had told us he existed, so he liked us, so nobody was ever hurt in my house. But
I do recall another couple different things. When I was young, I used to have these dreams about floating downstairs from my bedroom upstairs. And next thing you know, I woke up downstairs. And my mother would always look at me and go, well, how'd you get downstairs? I was young, I was little, I didn't know. I thought somebody carried me.
Oh, we'd go upstairs. I forgot. We'd go up in the attic. I had a couple of times, and I had stored a lot of stuff up there, and the stuff was moved all around, all over the place. And actually, that happened after we did some renovations down on the first floor. And the next day, all of this stuff, of our stuff, was moved around, thrown different places and everything. We'd never heard it happen, but when we got up there, all of this had happened, and we straightened it all up. A couple of days later, I went up in the attic again, and here was the stuff all over the place again. Nobody'd been up there. The kids never went up in the attic because they was afraid to, and very, very seldom they went down in the cellar because they was afraid to. And after the White Witch had been there, I was a little leery myself about going down the cellar. The attic never bothered me at all.
And there was one other instance that I remember in my early 20s. I was asleep, and all of a sudden, for some reason, I woke up. My bedroom was right at the top of the stairs, which is to say, if I was laying in my bed and looked sideways out the bedroom door, the top of the stairs was right there. And for some reason, I woke up, and this all could have been a dream, but it just seemed so real. I woke up, and I heard something, and just out of the corner of my eye, I saw a figure dressed in an old cowboy outfit. He had a cowboy hat on. He looked all dusty, like he'd just come off a trail. And it was like a mist. And I caught it out of the corner of my eye just as it passed my doorway heading down the stairs. And I went, "George?" And all of a sudden he backed up like 2 steps, leaned back, looked in the doorway and went, "Shh," and disappeared down the stairs. And I fell right back to sleep.
Then other times I'd come home late at night and I'd hear water running. So I'd go to the bottom of the stairs and listen to see when one of my kids was up. And there was no one up. I heard the water distinctly. You could hear it in the pipes running, and then it would shut off. And then the toilet would flush. And of course the water, when it finished, it stopped. And then I went upstairs, nobody was there. Looked all around, nobody was around. And I didn't think anything of it, really. I went back to having my supper again because it was late.
We were told by a woman they referred to as the White Witch that he was happy that somebody acknowledged his existence because of all the people that had lived in that house. We were the only people that made an effort to acknowledge his existence, and that he was peaceful. He died while being a lookout on the attic window, while being a lookout for Indians, and he was killed by an arrow shot through the attic window. He was there protecting the house, that nobody in the house would ever get hurt as long as we did not disturb or take down any walls. I don't know what that meant. To this day, I still don't know what that means. But we honored him and never tore down any walls. But it was, you know, it was always kind of a running joke in the family. We'd hear noises and, you know, and people would go, "What was that?" And my mother said, "Oh, that's just George." Or, you know, we'd hear something and my mother would look up and go, "George, knock it off. We know you're here." And stuff like that.
And a few odds and ends like that kind of would make you think. Some of the kids got a little scared and had goosebumps and stuff like that, like somebody telling a story. But I mean, I've had that happen to me too, but it didn't as far as this went. I wasn't afraid of anything then. I was a young man, and I done a lot of things, so I really didn't. It didn't concern me that much.
But nobody ever got hurt. Nothing was ever harmed. He was kind of like a member of the family. We just got used to it. We got used to the noises. We accepted the fact that it was him, or believed the fact that it was him, whether it was or not. But it was just all part of growing up, really. I learned to accept it. I heard noises, saw things, experienced things. To this day, I don't have an explanation for them. All the area streets were named after Indians. Wamasett, Algonquin, Mohawk. There was a bunch of others, but they were all Indian-related names to the streets. And Shawsheen was another one. But it just all tied into the story, I guess you'd call it. So again, like I say, with all the evidence that, you know, we came across between the time records and this and that, and we just came to accept it. It just became part of our lives.
People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're alone. Women seem wicked when you're unwanted. Streets are uneven when you're down.